very small, and you can see on the back wall our progression as we sort of gradually grew up. We started small, but we had big ambitions. Secretly, we didn't tell our readers on Cortes Island what we were really trying to do. But what we were trying to do was to show the links between the local struggles and the larger situation, between the local struggle and the global situation, between the local struggle and social justice struggles around the world, between the local struggle and the economic system around the world. Those links can be seen when you're trying to fight to save a local park or a local piece of forest. Well, that fight is actually related to the issue of industrial forestry, industrial logging, and our system of industrial logging. And that struggle is being fought by communities and indigenous nations all over the world. Everywhere they're going in and mowing down somebody's favorite piece of forest. So that struggle isn't just a local struggle about one park. It's a global struggle for social justice for local communities. And of course, it's directly related to industrial capitalism and the growth economy, an economy that requires more and more and more paper, more and more and more trees. So that was our secret agenda. And I have to say that we're still working on developing how to do that. But I was just reading a piece by Maud Barlow. She was talking to the grant makers, the foundation environmental grant makers. And she was telling them, hey guys, market solutions don't work. What has to happen is there has to be a link between the environmental movement and the social justice movement. It needs to become one movement. And at the Watershed Sentinel, that's what we intend to keep on working towards into the future. Over those 20 years of publishing all those local stories, mostly from BC, but sometimes from way across the world and sometimes from across Canada or the States, in those 20 years, we've told the stories of thousands and thousands of volunteers around the world working for the same issues in their hearts. And people sometimes say to me, don't you get really depressed with all that bad news? And I try to explain that every time you hear a story about something where some people, some community somewhere in the world is up against the wall and fighting and trying to do something different than what the corporate world has in mind for their little community, every time you hear that story, it's actually good news because it means there's people on the case. There are people trying to do something about that problem. So it sounds like bad news, but in actuality, it's fabulous because there's more and more people all over the world working on these problems. And those volunteers are the people who will bring us into that new movement, that new future where we have to go if we're going to have a future at all. Talking of all those volunteers, I have to say thank you to the hundreds of volunteers who've kept the Watershed Sentinel going over 20 years. It's hard to even imagine how many hours so many people across the province have put into that magazine. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you, those of you who are here, and there's lots of you, and those of you who aren't here, and those of us who have already passed on. Last of all, a magazine needs readers. And I want to say that our donors and our subscribers are the lifeblood of our magazine. They are what actually keeps us going because physically they pay the bills. And I want to encourage anyone who isn't yet a subscriber, but who's perhaps reading a free copy, to become a subscriber because we need that help in the form of your subscription. we're offering a great Christmas or seasonal gift this year, which is a Wilderness Committee calendar, a gift card, and a year's subscription to the Watershed Sentinel.